Today we're gathered here to make an announcement. But before we get to the announcement itself, there are some people that I particularly want to recognize for the long labor that they engaged in to get to this point. And I want to recognize Johnny Jones, who was obviously one of the very early supporters in terms of bringing about change for the Kissimmee. Ken Laughlin, project manager for the Water Management District. I want to thank Ken for the great presentations you made on more than one occasion to see if we lay people that are not engineers can understand some of the procedures that are required to get this work done. Timer Powers, a former board member, for his continued interest on the Kissimmee, and of course the years that he personally was involved with it. Of course, Nat Reed, again for many years' work, not only with the Kissimmee, but obviously with the entire South Florida Water Management District. I know Ken Adams also is here somewhere, current board member, and Arsenio Milan, I believe, is here. Is there another water board member?
Mike Stout.
Mike, all those who are currently serving, of course, that make the decisions on today. Teresa Woody from the Sierra Club, who has been a very strong supporter of bringing change to the Kissimmee River. Bernie Yoko, Florida president of the Audubon Society. Of course, Charles Lee's around here somewhere. Manly Fuller, executive director of Florida Wildlife Federation. And of course, there's so many others that from the beginning or later on join in the effort to do something about the Kissimmee River. But I want to thank two individuals in particular for the work that they have done within the last 12 months and the time that they spent talking to me either directly or by phone. And that's Jim Gardner, the chairman of the Water Management District, and Woody Wadriska, the executive director. I think the work that they've engaged in, I think, have been tremendous. And I think one of the very first things when I took office in '87, he was kind enough to give me an overflight of the whole Kissimmee area and made a couple of stops and looked at it and went back one more time, if my memory serves me right, to look at the weirs that had been put in place to see what it was doing with the oxbows. So that we've now come a long way, particularly the last 6 or 7 months. A lot of money has been spent in studies for more years than we want to count, from written reports to modeling. It's all basically, I believe, has been looked at. I and my staff people have looked at it, and we're convinced the time to move is now. That we have enough information, I think, to make a major difference in the way the Kissimmee River is, and the difference is to take it back to what it was. Just in recent months, we have seen the initiatives by the state where we've gone into pristine rivers and by public policy begin to protect them for the future so that we don't have to come back in the next generation to undo it. As recent as yesterday, we did the Swanee River. That by rule and regulation, we believe that river will be protected in the future as development grows. That river, somewhat longer than the Kissimmee, obviously would be a devastation if we allowed it to be developed or used in the way that the Kissimmee has been. It's ironic that it took 10 years to ditch it, the Kissimmee River, and in today's dollars, $150 million was spent. If you take what it cost in those dollars and extend it to today's cost, it's $150 million over 10 years. It's going to cost some $270+ million to restore. I can tell you it ain't going to cost us to see the Swanee anywhere near this amount of money, and that's what good public policy can do, to reduce the cost to the taxpayers to fix something that we, perhaps unintentionally, but in fact was done. I think that we know that the Kissimmee River is part of a key component of a system. Kissimmee River, Lake Okeechobee, Everglades, all under stress, and certainly the weather forecast is not helping any in terms of the stress that the Glades is under at this time. The basin covers some 3,013 square miles, all the way from south of Orlando to Lake Okeechobee. It had 50,000 acres of wetlands, provided winter feeding grounds for the flocks of migratory birds and spawning grounds for Florida's largemouth bass. But then it got channelized, and it became almost a chute for water simply to leave without much benefit. $30 million in yesterday's dollars was spent to get rid of water. The project converted the 103-mile river into a canal 52 miles long and 30 feet deep, resulting in some 45,000 acres of wetland was lost, a 90% reduction in waterfowl population. Since 1976, almost immediately after the completion of the channel, the concern started that we have done something bad and wrong, and that's where some of you already begin to get involved. Until now, people have organized to bring about change. The Water Management District responded with studies to see if change could be engaged in. And in recent years, the dollars are more than I care to announce here in terms of the work that's been done in studying it. Eventually, the study led to 4 alternatives to be presented to me. One was additional weirs. Another was earthen plugs. The third was partial backfilling. And the fourth was maximum backfilling. In my view, only the maximum backfilling will achieve the restoration goals that will restore some 45,000 acres of wetlands in the river floodplain system while maintaining an adequate level of flood protection for this area. Our objective is to bring the river system back to its natural state, restore its environmental quality, and in the process revitalize the ecology of one of the most important systems in Florida, or for that matter, anywhere that you want to go to. Yes, there is a cost. There was a cost to ditch it, and there'll be a cost to fix it. It's estimated the entire project will cost some $276 million. Again, in current dollars, it took $150 million to cut the ditch. There's a lesson to be learned here. It is easier and less costly to prevent problems than it is to come back and try to undo them. Our objective now is to correct this costly mistake. The first phase, which is backfilling some 3.5